Hello. Today's stories come from r/slash I don't work here lady. We've got 3 stories starting with I don't work here, but now you get to come to my work. I'm a correctional officer and work nights. After work, I normally just go home and sleep to get ready for my next 12-hour shift. However, on my days off, I take the time to do chores and housework. On this day, I did not have the night off, so I had to get done what I could before going to bed. So I went home and picked up my wife and kiddos to go grocery shopping. We get to the store and start doing the usual. A lady comes up to me and my family and starts asking for directions to items. Some I know and some I don't, so I tell her where the things I know and apologize for the things I don't. Now, mind you, I'm in full uniform taser, cross draw, cuffs on each hip, auger on left thigh, spray, and all the other items I use at work. On top of all that, I smell of peppers, sweat, mold, and rust as the facility I work at is old and moist. She seems upset, but walks away. We continue shopping, and after a while, we meet up with the lady and she spots us and comes down, but this time she's pissed. She starts screaming that I'm the worst employee ever and I should be fired for not helping. She continues on about how I should be catching shoplifters or backwatching the cameras instead of flirting with this hussy. Yay, she's one of those. I interrupt her rant and say the usual words of, I do not work here. She, of course, fails to hear them, as is the usual on this sub, and continues her rant, yelling and screaming that she picked me to help her because I'm the asset protection and should know where everything is. I ask my wife to take the kids and find a manager for this Karen. Lady, from now on known as Karen, is none too pleased to hear her secret identity outed and increases her volume. I try to explain to Karen that I am a prison guard and not loss prevention at a grocery store. I tell her to go pound sand and find someone that actually works here. I then turn my back and start to walk away when I'm nailed in the back of the head and fall forward in a full face plant. I'm hurting, dazed, and can feel glass all around me. I roll onto my back and feel around. It's pasta sauce. This twat just brained me with pasta sauce. She's still yelling and screaming and raises another jar to throw. I grab my taser, aim, and pop. Down she goes, hard. I get up, stumble over, flip her around, and cuff her. She's out like a light. My guess is the fall. I then sit back down and take an inventory of myself. I'm bleeding pretty bad from my head, but seem to be all right. My wife, customers, and management show up as I'm checking over Karen. I pulled my trauma kit off the back of my belt to get the smelling salts. I tell them to call 911 and continue checking on Karen. She's awake, dazed, and blissfully quiet. The rest goes as expected. The police arrive, question me, question her, watch the cameras, and I refuse medical treatment but do press charges. As my wife is a boss lady, I say that with reverence. She's medical trained and will take good care of me. I go home. She asked if I wanted staples or glue. I chose glue. She glues my head and we take a shower. Go to sleep and she wakes me up from time to time, which I know isn't the best idea, but hey, a few days later I'm writing this, so I ended up all right. I get a call a couple hours before my shift ordering me to come in early to talk to Ring. Dreading this, I follow my orders and get up, shaved, showered, and dressed. I go in and have to explain the whole thing again and again. Then they show me the video from the store. It's exactly as I explained, though I did note she could throw far better than I could have dreamed. They order me not to wear my uniform outside of work and tell me I'll be working in booking tonight. I'm not very good at booking, but look forward to the training and activity of it, as the rest of the facility is slow and boring. Around 11 p.m. rolls around, and who do I see being escorted into booking but Karen? I start to talk, but my sergeant taps me and shushes me. He talks to the deputy, bringing her in, and they start doing the paperwork while I watch and try to learn as much as possible. She's charged with aggravated assault of a law enforcement officer and possession of meth. Who would have thought? Now Karen gets to live at my workplace. I don't get to work in the female zones, but the booking process was fun, though I wasn't allowed to do anything but watch. After she's booked, I'm told to report to another zone and end up finishing the night. Now, for the past few days, pasta jokes have been in abundance, and her nickname is Pasta Lady. Her court date isn't for a while, and she's reportedly not getting along with other inmates and is in detox. Oh, Karen. He didn't work there, but you'll be spending lots of time with him now at his real place of work. Enjoy. Now for some quick gold from the comments. Lurkernon said, getting to watch your assaulter do the perp walk? Priceless. Shutterbug483 asked, "Did she ask to speak with the warden yet?" J113R said, "This dumb mother trucker tried to basically kill someone she thought was a security officer. How did she think that was going to end?" Digital Junkie replied, "If she had meth, she was probably on meth. If she was on meth, she wasn't thinking. Certainly not of any consequences. That's the tragedy of the meth epidemic. Hopefully, she can get the help she needs to get off of that garbage. I'm glad OP is okay." Our second story is the first of two from the same author. Security thinks I am his relief. I work for a pretty large security company that has a contract with the absolute biggest employer in the city. This is where I work security for. I also live in a security protected apartment complex. Plot twist: it is protected by the same company I work for. My apartment was right next to the clubhouse. This was where security parked. Some background information. The company as a whole uses tan shirts for supervisors and white shirts for the officers, but the specific contract for this employer dictated that supervisors wore white shirts and officers wore blue. I am a supervisor. To top it off, my apartment complex is only a 5-minute drive, 15-minute walk from where I work. On this one particular day, I had just gotten off at 8 a.m. from a 12-hour shift and had exactly 8 hours before I had to be back in for another 12-hour shift. I also had to deal with an employee of the company I protect trying to start fistfights and punching me in the face just 20 minutes before my shift ended. So I was already on edge. I pulled my car up to the front of my apartment and, being the friendly introvert I am, waved to the security guard who was looking directly at me and then went towards my front door. As I was moving through the big key ring to get my keys out, my shoulders grabbed and I am violently turned around. Still haven't been able to settle down from the incident at work. I put the guy who grabbed me over the railing and on his head. He wasn't injured or anything. It took him a minute to get up, though, as he went a full 180 in under a second. When I realized it was the security guard of the complex, I walked over and tried to help him up. He fired off at me, "You aren't allowed in the residents' apartments. I'll have you fired for this." Now, I have seen this guy a few times when I went to check the mail, but he seemed not to recognize me. I can fully understand. I see 500 people walk in and out where I work, and I never bother learning names unless I work with you every day, you're one of the big shots who actually can fire me that instant, you cause trouble frequently. Needless to say, I can understand the lack of recognition. "I don't work here. I live here." "BS," he immediately responded once he got back on his feet. "I know our uniform. You're the new guy supposed to be relieving me." He grabbed my arm and tried to show me where the car was. "Remove your hand from my arm or I will remove it from yours." I was already done and looking at most 6 hours of sleep, still in fight mode. I would have apologized later for this line, but spoilers. He's already on the radio calling in his supervisor to come deal with me. An hour later, the property manager is coming in to open the clubhouse. She stops, smiles, and waves and comes over. "Hi, didn't think you would be out at this time." The property manager and I were pretty cool with each other. I am skilled enough to make most repairs myself, am never late with rent, and once ran out to the pool to perform CPR for a resident. She also knew from the inspection yesterday that I was going to be pulling a messed up 12 on, 8 off, 12 on couple days. Before I can explain anything, the other guard butted in. "He was trying to go into a resident's apartment. I got my supervisor on the way. He won't be doing it again here." Ladies and gentlemen, I turned him upside down. The property manager, a nice, sweet, older woman, was about to turn this idiot inside out. Before she could say anything, the officer supervisor drove up and asked what was going on. She cut the officer off and told him, "This fool is holding one of our residents hostage outside his apartment. I want him out of this complex 5 minutes ago, and he will not be coming back here, ever." The supervisor just gave the officer a dismissive thumb back motion. He had no leeway to argue. The contractee can always tell who not to allow on any site, even our own employees. Yeah, he was fired on the spot. And this is not the end, folks. Remember how I said we work for the same company? The corporate big shots decided to rehire him and send him to the largest employer they guard and give him a second shot. He arrived for an interview at my facility, where I had hiring power. The interview went all of 3 questions. Are you going to keep anyone out that is supposed to be in here? Are you going to ask for credentials for anyone you don't know trying to enter? Are you going to grab anyone? He said no, and I accepted him to the facility. He's been working a year here now and is one of my best access control officers on site. Even to the point someone claimed he let someone in that wasn't authorized, and I laughed instantly. Aw, what a good story. It had the unexpected physicality of an I don't work here lady story, but then ends up really heartfelt thanks to OP giving this employee a second chance. It's actually the same employee who will star in our next story, but before that, let's hit the comments. OP said, "So, about the second question, he did say yes on that. As I was writing this, my brain was on the detail of him saying no quite quickly about grabbing people. We joke about it when I forget my badge. My grandpa taught me that idiots can be taught. Fools have to learn things the hard way. And learning has always been a big thing for me, so I didn't even think twice about a second chance." The Only Barbie said, "This is probably the best post I have ever read on Reddit. An action/drama with a happy ending. Did he recognize you at the interview?" OP replied, "Yep, immediately. There was only about a week in between him getting fired and the interview." Only Barbie replied, "What was his reaction when he saw you?" OP said, "He went pale for a bit until I told him to come around to the office." Next up, Turnabout is a good laugh. This one happened just yesterday, but not to me. It involves the officer from my last post, and I just happened to be watching it live. Since that post, I've been promoted and am now a salaried manager at a different facility. The guard from the last post volunteered to bring some documents down to me as he lives near my new building. I told him to meet me at the mall as I was just getting out of work by the point he would be showing up and had not eaten anything all day. He shows up and we actually both grab some square burgers in the food court. Here's where it gets interesting. The mall has security, as most places do nowadays. The company we work for also does the security at the mall. Like I said, largest employer. He's still in his guard uniform. I'm in a regular polo shirt. All of a sudden, this woman comes running up to him, towing a screaming kid behind her. She wanted to complain about another kid pushing her kid off the slide. Most notably, she wanted security to escort the other family out. The officer told her that, while he was security, he wasn't security for the mall, and then pointed her to the office that was across the food court, another 100 feet. She slapped the burger out of his hands. Mall security actually showed up on their Segway and escorted her away from the food court to take the complaint. He gave me a look of, did that really happen? I had to say it before I exploded from laughter. History repeats, huh? I bought him another burger. A little karma for the employee, but I'm happy he and OP could just laugh it off. I am a bit miffed that this entitled Karen got off with no consequence destroying some random guard's lunch, but they can't all be tasers, prison sentences, and perp walks all the time, right? OP provided a bit of detail in the comments as well. In response to, she slapped the burger out of his hands, DVG said, security should have escorted her away and out. How people think it's ever okay to do this kind of thing is beyond me. I feel sorry for that child and everyone that child interacts with having grown up with an example like her. Zephram71 asked, "What happened to the lady for assaulting someone? Someone she thought was mall security, no less." OP replied, "I have no idea, but going by our employee standard operating procedure, they probably listened to her, calmed her down, took notes, and smiled in order to calmly walk her out without causing a scene. It seemed to work if they went by the book, because we didn't hear anything while waiting in line." If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.